Good morning. I hope everybody that listens is keeping well. I am taking refuge indoors because it's rainy and it's windy outside and it's freezing. It's one of those winter mornings. When I look outside the window, I am like, ooh, I'm so glad I'm indoors right now. So I was reading here, and this paragraph really, really got me thinking. So decided to share it with everybody that listens. Nothing, of course, is stranger or more unwelcome to the modern mentality than is the idea of self-noting. Self-noting? What are you talking about? Self-noting is learning the difference between the self and the ego. It is a spiritual understanding. Liberty of choice has become an obsession, right? I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to become this, I want to become that, I want to go that place, I want to experience this, I want to experience that. It's an obsession, you know? They want to do it all. Like, you only live once. So be wild. This live life on the edge has become an obsession. The superior liberty of spontaneity is no longer understood. Of course not. Spontaneity, creativity, that moment when you wonder, when you are at peace and wonder, right? Doesn't exist. Now people are living on the edge, living on the roller coaster. They have money to do everything, right? They can travel, they can try this and try that, and the roller coaster. They are addicted to the dopamine. They are addicted to the drama. They live life like, there's no tomorrow. For those who are afraid, I cite, I can no more doubt. Doubt. They can no longer wonder, you know. They live in echo chambers. They don't doubt things anymore. They are simply too busy doing something else. No time to wonder, no time to think. What to me is fact, perceived truth, namely, that any person would be indefinitely happier if he could accept the loss of his individual self and let nature pursue her uncharted course. What he means by individual self, he's talking about let go of your self centered self, let go of your egomaniac narcissistic self, let go of it, and just let nature pursue her uncharted course because that's what this world is all about. It's uncharted. It's impossible to predict. Some scientists are obsessed, and some people, are obsessed in predicting the future. They just don't like the idea that this life is uncharted. Totalitarian regimes, they seek control so they can predict people's behavior, predict the future, predict what's going on, what's going to happen. Obsession. Why are they so obsessed with predicting things? Why are they so afraid of the uncharted course of life because of they are afraid mainly of the four primordial fears. They are afraid of the future. They are afraid to lose. For instance, investing money, they are afraid to lose. They are afraid confrontation, and they are afraid of death because they have no knowledge of the self. They are ignorant of the self. That's why they are afraid of death. Now, this psychiatrist said in 1942, here we have the very mother of illusions, the ever pregnant source of preconceptions that invalidate all our efforts to understand other peoples. What is the mother of illusions? This idea of the self, the ego self. It's the mother of all illusions. Why does it invalidate our efforts to understand other peoples? The ego is where envy starts. Envy, anger, hatred. Yeah? That's the ego. It doesn't let you understand others. To understand others, you have to do it spiritually. And that's the opposite of the ego. It is through spiritual understanding that you will connect with other people. The psychiatrist may, in his own objective moments, hold the current view of personality that it is the hypothetical entity that one postulates to account for the doings of people. Of course, you have to account for the doings of people, right? This hypothetical entity, when someone commits a crime, they have to be held accountable, right? This person, that, this and that, did this crime, therefore he has to be punished. It's very common. I read this in a book about psychopaths that they change persona or personality, as it fits them. So they are never accountable for the things they do. They say, oh, the person yesterday did those crimes. Today I'm a total different person. So the crimes committed yesterday was a different personality, a different, facade, a different ego. It's true that we change, but it's not like this. This is total pathological, right? It's true that we change, and it takes decades for us to change. I have an idea. We are children from the day we are conceived, at the moment of conception. We are children until around 27 years old. From 27 to 40 years old, we are almost like teenagers. And after 40 is when you actually become an adult. I'm talking as in levels of, maturity. In terms of maturity, I think it's only after 40 that you become an adult. And that's why family was so important. The family unit was so important in the past. It was the family that guided people up until they were 40. At the moment, family unit is destroyed by the Marxists. They really hated the idea of family units, of monarchies, anarchies, or they hated the power that agriculture had, and they wanted to dominate, to to control absolutely everything related to that. So what we have nowadays is a system in which what's popular, the current thing, right, is proposed by the system, by the Marxist system, and people have to follow it. And there's no more family unit. And then everybody is self-absorbed. They are all um, deluded again in this fictitious self that really doesn't exist. This egomaniac self, this schizophrenic self that doesn't seem to create bridges, it only destroys bridges. So let me continue. In his last specialized moments, the same where was I? In his last specialized moments, the same psychiatrist joins the throng. The same psychiatrist joins the crowds in exploiting his delusions of unique individuality. He conceives himself to be a self-limited unit, almost like a robot. Yeah, like an automaton. He conceives himself to be a self-limited unit that alternates between the state of insular detachment, a robot, like isolated island, and varying degrees of contact with other peoples and with cultural entities. You see, they isolate themselves like an automaton, and instead of creating bridges, they destroy them. He arrogates to himself. He claims without justification the principal role in such of his actions as he happens to notice. The main character syndrome. To believe in one's own or another's personality or individuality is animism. And here the author mentions animism not in theology, but in psychology. In psychology, animism is when children give, objects a life. Objects are animated. In the traditional philosophy, it is emphasized that personalities are inconstant. They are ever changing and never stopping to be. In philosophy, this thing called a personality is in constant changing. It's in constant becoming. Like everything else in this world, everything is in constant move, in constant change, in constant becoming. Science is obsessed in analyzing an event. It's almost like they take a picture, they analyze the picture, they form an hypothesis, a theory, and they come up with a solution. But whatever happened is long gone, and possibly will never repeat itself. But again, these people are convinced that you can do that, that you can stop time, that they are in a state, that is not changing. They think they are, frozen in time, so to speak. Okay, let me continue. Ever changing and never stopping to be. We are not entities, but a process. Yes, we are not entities, but a process. We are in the process of what? Of becoming. Dr. Sullivan's words are, whether or not by intention, an admirable summary of the Buddhist doctrine of anatta. An attachment of permanent value to personality will be impossible for anyone who has seen things as become, objectively, as causally determined process. The first step on the way to liberation from the mother of all illusions and towards infinite happiness is to have realized by a demonstration that this body and consciousness is not myself, that there is no such thing as a personality anywhere to be found in the world. Life in a world of time and space is a condition of incessant change, and as Plato says, how can that which is never in the same state be anything? So everything in this world that is affected by mass and magnitude is in constant change. Our consciousness is in constant change. What do you mean by consciousness? Your brain, your what you call yourself, your personality is in constant change. You are not the same person you were 20 years ago. Hence my theory, from 0 to 27, you are a child. Then after that, you change. You become a teenager from 27 to 40. And then you change again. And it's only at 40 that you become an adult. Of course, this is, not fixed. Some people are adults at the age of 10 years old. It all depends. It all depends on the person. Some achieve, wisdom a lot faster than others. And there are also cases of people that are 60 years old and still behave like children. Yeah. So it's not a rule, there's always exceptions to, there's always exceptions. Where was I? Almost the first step in clear thinking is to distinguish becoming from being, distinguishing who you are and what's going on, with this life, with this experience, this constant becoming. The important thing is to know what we really are, but this is a knowledge that can only be acquired to the extent that we eliminate from our consciousness of being all that we are not. This is the Platonic retroduction, or the Indian Sudhakarana. If I'm reading correctly, you are not your feelings, you are not your forms, you are not your perceptions, you are not your thoughts, you are not consciousness. It's using the negative theology, the neti. So, man, I'm talking for 20 minutes already. That's crazy. So the other day, something weird happened. I uploaded an audio and the views was up and down. I didn't understand what was going on. It was like 5 views. Next morning, 0 views. And I'm like, what's going on? I look at the, stats, and there was no movement. Nothing. I posted a video for 24 hours and there was no movement. I thought to myself, are people, is this public or not? Maybe there was a bug, a glitch. So I deleted and re-uploaded again. And suddenly it started having, movement. Maybe there was a glitch of the system. It considered the video private instead of public. Or maybe, it's just me overreacting. All right.